Are you sick and tired of not achieving your goals at the end of the day? Your bank account's the same, your job's the same, your life's the same. Well, today we're going to dive into a topic that could easily change your life moving forward. This is a subject that, when I've dug into this a little bit deeper, gone as far and as wide as I possibly can with this thought and my idea, and try to how to implement it every day, I've seen great progress in my life. And I know Greg Junge, our co host here on the Rich Mind podcast, has had success with this as well. And today we're going to discuss micro and macro habits. Now, we talk about habits a lot here on the podcast. And you might be thinking, okay, micro and macro, is there really a difference? And today, yes. So hang in there with us on this episode today. We're going to dive in a little bit deeper, give you some examples, give you some real life examples, some of the things that we do on a daily basis on the macro and on the micro level for our habits to help us try to achieve the results that we're looking for this year, next year. Doesn't matter what goal it is. You can actually apply what we're going to talk to any goal you've got set for yourself moving forward. So excited about this conversation. Any thoughts at the beginning, Greg? Micro and macro habits.
Yeah. So obviously we talk about habits a lot on this podcast, like you mentioned. It's just a fun topic. And I like how we're going to break it down today, macro versus micro, large versus small. And yeah, it's going to be a fun one. And I think we have a lot of different examples coming from different areas of life. So that'll probably help our listeners even more.
So we do. So we were given a few of the examples of some of the things that are going on in our lives even before we hit record today. And yes, we can break that down in so many different ways. We'll probably stick today in the more of the health realm, because I think that kind of makes most sense to everybody. Greg and I both are trying to achieve certain goals, certain things in our own life, and we've broken them down into macro and micro habits. So let's maybe just break that down right off the bat here and talk about what that even means. So you mentioned just the words macro and micro. So one would be large and the micro would be small. So the idea for me, when I think about it, is try to break your large goal. So you have a goal. So let's say it's a weight goal, or let's even just use the water goal. We've talked about that in the last episode or two, how we're trying to consume. For myself, it's about 100 ounces of water per day, half your body weight in ounces of water. It's what I shoot for. And so roughly that's about 100 ounces. So from a macro standpoint, that's the goal. I'm trying to achieve 100 ounces of water a day. Now that sounds great. So how do you get in the habit of doing that? Or this is what I've done for myself, as I've started to create micro habits along the way. So the water bottle, you've probably seen me drink and use out of, if you're watching us on video, I use it all the time. I've got it sit right over here next to me. It's right about 30 ounces is what this bottle is. And so I know that if I consume about 3 of those bottles per day, that's approximately going to get me to the number that I'm trying to get to. So what I do, so that's the macro habit, is I'm trying to drink that much water per day. So the micro for myself, what I do is that every night before I go to bed, I actually set this up. This is a thermal cup, so it's going to keep a little bit of a temperature, whether you're like your water warm or cold or ice cold, whatever, it doesn't matter. The point is that what I do is I go and get my water ready for myself the night before, and I sit it right next to where I'm going to be. I know where I'm going to be the next morning. So if you're in the routine of getting up and doing particular things every day, which I have been my whole life, and I assume you have been as well and still are, where do you go first thing in the morning? And the idea then is to, okay, where can I set up a habit for myself that's going to get me off to the right start very first thing in the morning? And usually I can have that first bottle of water consumed. So the first so-called, about 30 ounces of water consumed in about an hour, hour and a half as I'm getting ready for my day. That sets me up for success. That means I only need to consume 2 more throughout the day. And usually I probably end up consuming more than that, more than the 100 ounces per day. But that's an example. So the goal is the 100 ounces of water, or even taking it further than that, is the weight loss goal and the health goals of getting myself feeling better. We all know that hydration is part of that. So then breaking that down further into a micro goal, okay, that's 100 ounces of water, and then going a little bit further. How can I set myself for success day in, day out? That's definitely been a micro goal for myself. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love the fact that you're setting yourself up every day for that success. I do pretty much the same thing. I put a 16-ounce glass of water on my nightstand, and then the first thing I do in the morning is, basically chug it. But like you said, if you don't do it the night before, that micro habit of setting it up, putting the lemon in there, whatever you do to your water, if it's not there, then you're just going to go on with your day, and you're not going to start with, hydrating yourself. And obviously that's important to you and I and probably our listeners. Another thing I like to do is, if you can, like, gamify your habits. It just makes it more fun. So me and my wife, we actually track the amount of water that we intake as well, because I was very bad at just drinking water unless I was really aware that I wasn't drinking water. So we literally have like a post-it note every morning, and we just put our initials there. And I try to hit 80 ounces. And I think she drinks a lot more than I do. She drinks a ton of water. But anyway, I try to gamify it. So if I can hit more than 80, then I feel like, all right, cool. Like I did a little bit, extra that day. So yeah, like if you can gamify it, or if you can work with somebody to have that accountability, or at least do it with them, right? That's like another tip or whatever, to kind of make sure that you're going to continue doing your micro habit or your macro habit for that matter.
So you said a post-it note. Literally, is it a post-it note that you keep track of it on? Tell me a little bit more about that. I didn't realize I knew you tracked things, but I thought it was more digital than it was like handwritten type things. Tell me more. So do you have like a checkbox, or kind of walk me through that? Just tell me a little bit more detail. Maybe that'll resonate
Yeah.
with somebody listening to us today. Maybe that's something they can implement.
So she does it a little bit differently. She does like the hashtags, or like the marks, where if she
Like
marks
one,
like
two, three,
one,
four, and five.
yeah, and then
Okay.
whatever that mark means to her, I think it's 8 ounces or 16 ounces. I don't even know. So she does it that way. I write it, and I like, the first thing I write is 16 ounces, wake up. So I know, like, as soon as I woke up, I drank 16 ounces. And then during the day, I'll just put the amount of ounces of water that I drink. I include tea in there as well, because I drink a lot of tea. But then I'll just put it in there, and then at the end of the day, add it up. And if it's usually before 5 o'clock, and if I'm like short or whatever, then I'll make up that difference. But again, that's the game that I want to play with myself, is I want to hit that 80 every day. And if I can get a little bit more, great. If I can't, not a big deal.
Do you have as I mentioned, I have my can, or the container that I drink my water out of is the same. I wash it. Obviously I keep it clean, but at the same time I use the same one. So I know approximately how many ounces of water I'm getting
Mm-hmm.
every time I drink one. Do you switch cups around? How do you keep track of 8 ounces, 10 ounces, 20 ounces? Do you have anything specific for that?
So I usually just use a pint glass for water. So I know it's 16 ounces,
Not for beer.
not for beer, just for water.
Sorry.
And then if there's like if like sometimes I'll drink like a canned iced tea, like a hibiscus tea or whatever. If it's like 12 ounces, it's obviously 12 ounces. That's
Sure.
easy. So yeah, and I don't like measure everything out to the ounce. So if I'm off by 2-3 ounces by the end of the day, again, I don't take it too
Yeah.
seriously.
Right. Yeah. Same here. I was just curious if you had, just trying to dig out if there's anything specific that you were doing that was helping you with that micro goal. Cause that is the goal. Even with this episode, we're trying to help people see things that they might not have, they might not have even thought of. It's the idea of, okay, if I could take a post-it note, like I said, gamify it in some way, whether it's digital for myself. Like I said, I have my bottle that's sitting next to me as soon as I wake up, and I use that instantly. It's the first thing I go to. It's like I don't even think about it. It's not even, that's part of it for myself, is you don't want to have it where you have to think about it. You don't have to force yourself to do it. When I was in my retail working days, W-2 job, is that was my habit in the morning, is I was consuming a pop every morning, a can or a 20 ounce, didn't matter, one or the other. I've never been a fountain drink guy. I was always a can or a pop, or a can or a 20 ounce. And I had to get myself out of that habit, because that was literally my habit. I would not consume anything prior to me having that pop or that soda, whatever you call it, depending on what part of the country you're in. But the problem with that is so then that would derail me for the rest of my day. I would never have enough water throughout the rest of the day, versus now it's like I already set myself up for success. And that's kind of the whole point, folks. We just need to figure out the micro habits that's going to get you to that bigger goal. Is there anything else? We've talked about the consumption of the water. Is there anything else like that from a health standpoint, Greg, that you've tried to implement with your own life? That maybe help the folks out there listening to us today.
Yes, one other thing that I do in the morning, and I've heard other people do this when they're like making their coffee. I'm not a coffee guy,
Yeah, me
but
either.
if you put the coffee maker on, I don't know if it takes 3 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever it takes. I do this with water in the morning, because we have like a hydrogenator or whatever, and it's like a 3 minute process or whatever. So instead of doing something else, I literally just stretch for 3 minutes in my kitchen while I'm waiting for the water to kind of get ready and this is the second glass of water. Yeah, while I wait for that to get ready. So I just do a quick arm stretch, shoulder stretch, stretch my legs. Sometimes I'll get on the floor and do like a hip stretch, but it's literally just a micro habit that I'm like, well, what am I going to do for 3 minutes that can benefit me? And I've been doing it for a couple weeks now, and it's just like automatic at this point. You throw the water in, you hit the button, stretch for 3 minutes. It's nice and quiet in my house at that time of day, so it works for me. And yeah, so just kind of squeezing that in. But that's another micro habit that anybody can throw in anywhere, really.
Well, that's a great idea. So the stretching part, that's something that I honestly hadn't thought much about that. That's a great idea. I'm very similar in the mornings. I get up, I'm usually the first up in our house. I've got my things ready to go. So, and then I grab the supplements that we take usually. And then we do the hydrogen water as well. Folks, if you're curious about hydrogen water, let us know. We can definitely point you in some different directions of where to get some more information about that. We're definitely not experts, but we definitely consume those things and it's very good for you. But with that said, yeah, stretching, that's a great idea. I never even thought about, because mine's a 10-minute cycle. The bottle that I have is a 10-minute cycle. So I've got plenty of time. And usually, like you said, that's usually my second bottle of water. So mine is, I think, a 12-ounce bottle. The hydrogen water bottle is 12 ounce. So 30 plus 12, and I'm almost halfway through my day and the day's just beginning.
Mm-hmm.
That just really, once again, that's for that goal, for that part of my goal of getting myself better, feeling better, moving, feeling. But that's a great idea with the stretching. I never thought of that. I need to implement that micro strategy, that micro habit into my daily routine. I think I'm going to do that starting tomorrow morning. So yeah, I appreciate that. That's super awesome.
Nice. Yeah. Glad to help. And then, yeah, I just wanted to touch a little bit, I guess, on like the benefits of the macro, because obviously the macro is like the longer term goals. You're going to get the long term benefits. You need to really understand that because sometimes you're not going to see those results right away, especially with like stretching for 3 minutes. It's not going to turn me into like, Mr. Flexibility, but it might, my thinking is it might prevent an injury. And if I can do that for 3 minutes every day while have nothing to do for those 3 minutes, that's the long-term benefit that I'm kind of banking on. So that improved health, it could be improved productivity if you're talking about a, business macro habit, and just overall, I think, well-being, in either of those areas.
That's the hardest part, I think, with habits. Getting habits set up is that you don't see the result instantly. You don't
Mm-hmm.
see the outcome. You've got the goal. So we've got a health goal. I've mentioned in the last few episodes for myself, the first of this year, I wanted to get my weight dialed back in. I was way worse than I ever should have been at this stage of my life. I just turned 51 and I definitely want to get better for my grandson, or even just for my family in general, for myself. And so when I did that, I made that decision and I started with these habits, with my goals and my habits. But then, yeah, you don't see the results right away. We were chatting just right before we hit record today about the progress that I have made. Now it's been probably 8 weeks, 10 weeks since the beginning. And so, yeah, I'm starting to see some of the needle move a little bit, but I believe that's the hardest part is you start this habit. It feels good at first. And I raise my hand. I've 100% been in the camp of starting out the gate hot and then you just fall off. You lose traction,
Mm-hmm.
you lose the motivation. I think the accountability, you mentioned that with your wife Mandy, how you get accountability with the drinking water. I think that's a great idea. I've mentioned this in the past. Greg, you're always in my mind when I'm thinking about consuming something or doing something. I'm always thinking, okay, what would Greg do at this point? And usually it's, I think he'd probably put it down, or yeah, I don't think he'd probably partake. That in and of itself is accountability for me, and it's helping me. So same thing, folks. If you're listening to us out there today, it's like, what would Greg and Randy want us to do? Think through that with these micro habits, with these macro habits. And if you can set some of these things up for yourself in advance, but understand that you're not going to see the results. You might feel some results or see some results relatively quickly, but it's not going to be probably on day one, which I think is probably the hardest part for, it was definitely that way for myself, but then a lot of the folks out there are probably struggling with that too. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I was going to say about micro habits because I know we're talking a lot about macro, and I love the part about the motivation because I think we've all been, yeah, hot out of the gate, and you're excited, and then all of a sudden the reality kicks in, and day three you're like, what am I doing this for again? I'm
Yeah,
not seeing
exactly.
any of those results like you're saying. So yeah, it's definitely easy to lose that motivation. But on the micro habit side, the key for me anyway, and I think it'll help a lot of listeners is to set the bar really low when you're starting out. Because I heard this about meditation. When you start meditation, everybody's like, oh, 15 minutes, 30 minutes meditation. I can't do that.
2 minutes. What are you talking about? 2 minutes is like almost impossible to keep
Yeah,
yourself quiet, right? If you're just
it
starting
is.
out. Sure.
It's very challenging. And that might be a conversation for another podcast on meditation and how to do it quote unquote correctly. I think if you just do it, you're doing a good job.
Exactly.
Um, but yeah, so I think an example of the micro habits is, instead of, saying, well, it's 15 minutes, I don't have 15 minutes to meditate, so I'm just not going to do it. Just try it for a minute or try it for 2 minutes. And if you build on that, and if you want to continue, if you like it, same thing like doing like 5 push-ups a day. And then the next day you do, maybe you can do 7 the next day, or, after you, cycle through being sore maybe, or whatever that looks like. And even if you do 5 push-ups every day and you don't increase them, it's still doing something. It's moving the needle very, very little, but it's, you never know what it's going to turn into. And it's just, I know we talked about this on the podcast a lot, but it's who you're becoming, right? You're becoming the guy or girl who does those 5 push-ups every day, regardless of, what time it is or where you are in the world. Or so it's building up that habit muscle, right? Which we talk about a lot.
Love it. Yeah. So even just those two things, I'm implementing those things into my life as we speak. The whole meditation piece. I was just out just before we came in to hit record today, and I was just closing my eyes and I was doing my best just to be as present as I possibly could in that moment, trying to block out any of the noise as much as you can. That's the thing, is I think that I think that there's like a certain way to do it, to do meditation. But I think if you can just get in the habit of, so once again, it's a micro habit of just getting quiet, just not necessarily letting your mind race into the thing you need to go do next, or jumping in here and hitting record with Greg, or what am I going to have for dinner tonight, or all the stuff that we're all thinking about all the time, even though we're probably not even hearing it because it's just going on so much in our chatter. But just get in the habit of, okay, I'm going to take just a couple of minutes here. I just laid back in my chair. I closed my eyes and I just got as quiet as I possibly could in my own mind for, I don't know. I didn't look at the clock. I mean, it might have been 5 minutes. It might have been 10. I don't know. But I've gotten into a habit of doing that regularly as much as I possibly can, which has helped me I feel like a little bit better at it, which is, once again, it's helped me with when I get triggered. I was triggered just the other day again, and I was able to catch myself. And I believe it's because of my practice, my micro goal of trying to meditate whenever I can. Whatever works for me allows me then to catch it quicker. So I just wanted to point that out, that it's, I don't think there is a right or a wrong. I think that certain people teach it in certain ways, but do what's best for you. If so, even just drinking the water habit that we're talking about, do what's best for you. The point is getting it done, whether it works for you or not, the way we're talking about it, that's up for debate. But at the same time, whatever works for you, it's gonna be the best. So the push-ups. So this is gonna sound silly. When I was first starting this journey of this wellness goal for myself, I was starting to do push-ups. I resistance bands and basic things around the house. I didn't want to join a gym membership. I didn't want to do any of those things. I got a treadmill for Christmas, which has been great. It's kept me moving. But one of the things I did, or what I started to do, is I started to do push-ups. And you're right. I couldn't do push-ups. I couldn't believe it. I
Yeah.
couldn't do like standard push-ups where you're up on your toes and you're like doing a plank and going down to I touch my nose
Tough.
on the ground. I couldn't do them when I first started, but I started to get in the habit of doing them. I wasn't doing them every day, but I was doing them every week, to now that I'm up to doing, what am I doing? 3 sets of 6.
All
Now that
right.
might not sound like a lot. I
Nice.
don't know. That might sound like a ton. It just depends. There again, there's no comparison. The point is that I went from not being able to do any. So I was down on my knees, like doing the knee push-ups, like
Mhm.
you're like, that's your pivot point versus your toes at first. And I was probably doing 10 to 12 of those from my knees at first. And then I moved up to my toes, and then I started to do some push-ups from there, to the point where now I'm doing, what I say, 3 sets of 6. And what I do is I try to pause, like I try to do slowly, a controlled down, like on the down to the ground as much as I can. And I try to thrust back up as hard as I can moving forward or to the top. The only reason why I bring that up is because that has been a micro habit that I've put into place that I'm starting to see after months of doing this, after starting from zero, because it was awful. I'm embarrassed to even talk about. Why am I even sharing this with the world? I don't know. I just share what's going on. But the point is that an example of a goal, a micro goal that I've put in place for myself. I'm getting better all the time. So in my mind right now, I'm working towards getting to 10. Next week, maybe I'll be able to get to 7. Next week, maybe I'll be stuck at 6. I don't know. We'll make that decision when we get there. But the point is that I'm moving towards it. And that's part of this micro goal that I've got set for myself. So the macro part of that is my health. I'm trying to get my weight back under control. I'm trying to be stronger. I'm trying to be more healthy. That's the macro piece. And the micro piece for myself is the push-ups. I loved how you brought that up because that's exactly what I'm trying to do right now, part of what I'm trying to do, but that fit in exactly. That's super awesome.
So I was going to ask you, are you tracking like, your water, your
I don't.
push-ups? No?
No, I don't. I just do it all in my head. So maybe that's something I need to get better at. I've never been, no, I don't even know how to describe it. I just have never been a tracker of things. I've never been, I've always been good at when I make a decision to do something to stick with it. The problem is I get tired of it or I get bored with it and then I fall off. Uh, the last time I went through this journey with myself was probably 2017, 2018. And so that's where I know exactly what it's going to take to get myself to where I want to be. The tracking piece is probably something I should do better at. I don't do that very well. I journal, but I don't journal about those types of things. I don't write that down. So my accountability piece, other than Greg speaking into my mind, telling me, hey, don't have that dessert. Yeah, don't do that. You want to have that soda today or that pop. Yeah, don't do that. That's Greg talking to me, and Greg's talking to you too now, and that's okay. Use it. If that can help,
Yep.
use it. So, anyways, hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah. And I was going to say, just like meditation, right? Like some people it works for, other people, they don't like it. So tracking, I was just asking you, what you're doing, whether you want to, start tracking or get better at it. That's totally up to you.
So what do you think it helps?
I think for certain people it does. Like for me, I think it definitely helps because I like having like a checklist, or I can see at the end of the month, I actually have like it on my Excel spreadsheet. So you can check the box of, like drank water every day, 80 ounces, whatever. And at the end of the month, it'll say 90% of the goal or 100% of the goal. So it tracks all that for me. So for me, I think it helps. But I know like people like yourself, like they're like, yeah, I don't track it, but I kind of got it in my head. And as long as it works, like, keep on doing what works.
Well, maybe that's why it's not working as well as it could or should. So yeah, I'm open to having some advice. If you think that would definitely help me move the process forward, see that progress even faster. Maybe that's a habit I need to get into. It's a habit right
Yeah.
now that I don't have set up. I don't have that set up at all. I don't track it anywhere other than right up here in my mind, which yeah, you can always miss things, forget things. I'm obviously I'm human just like anybody else. So, but at the same time, yeah, maybe that's another habit I need to get in place. I'll need to think through that. So, did you say you digitally keep track of that? Did I hear you say that?
Yep. Digitally keep track. So kind of breaking it down in this conversation, I think I digitally keep track of a lot of my macro and then some of the micro as well. But, like the post-it note for the water, for instance, that's just something that I can do with my wife on the kitchen counter. So that's why I wrote that down, not digitally, but just, manually with a piece of paper and a pen. So I kind of like blend between both of them, but again, whatever works for you, and this seemingly works for me. So I'm gonna kind of stick with it.
Well, it does work for you because you get the result, man. So yeah, don't downplay that at all. That's super cool. That's super cool. So yeah, any more thoughts about the micro and macro? Because this can really be applied to anything. It can be applied to a financial situation that you might be in. One thing, so you might have a financial goal that you're trying to achieve, whether it's maybe you're trying to invest in real properties or trying to acquire so much capital so you can have, whatever the goal is. But what would be a micro thing that you could do for that would be, and we talked about this before, is that, you could start setting aside a certain amount each week. I don't care what the number is. It could be big or it could be small, but do that automatically. Have that set aside, pull out of your account. That way it's set aside and ready for you to invest or whatever you're planning on doing it with it to reach these goals out there in life. To me, that's another example of using the macro versus the micro, but really getting honed in on making that a habit. If you can set up where it's automatic as much as you possibly can, so you don't have to think about it, once again, that is going to help you achieve your goals that much faster. That's been my experience. So I would assume you think that as well, Greg.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the tips coming out of this podcast, I would say, and you've told me this a million times, don't be hard on yourself in the beginning because it's it can be challenging, obviously, especially if you're going to set up even like 2 micro goals at the same time, 3 micro goals. It doesn't sound like a lot because micro is like, the small version of the goal, but it's doing 2 or 3 new things every day or every week. Yeah, it might be a little overwhelming depending on, your busy schedule or what you have going on. So don't be hard on yourself in the beginning, but then don't give yourself too much grace to allow yourself to slip out of that habit if you really want to get after it. So there's kind of a balance there, but I would say definitely don't be too hard on yourself in the beginning to start off with.
That's an excellent way to lead us into what we're going to talk about next time. We're going to talk about your level of commitment and why that is so important for you to achieve your results moving forward. If you're not committed 100%, you've got to be all in. It's not a halfway in. It's not, oh, I'll try. It's got to be a commitment. And we're going to get into that conversation on the next episode. I'm super excited about that one as well. So the takeaway from today, folks, like Greg said, we talk about health, wealth, and legacy. Those are kind of the 3 pillars that we talk about here on the podcast. Pick one of those for yourself. It doesn't matter which one, whichever one you feel like you're drawn to try to work on today. Like, what do you feel like you need to work on the most? We've talked a lot about the health today, but pick those pillars and think about which one or how can you set up a micro habit within your goal of the macro habit. So you've got probably some habits in place, or you're trying to implement some habits in your life. Where can you go to work and try to set up some micro habits within that macro habit to help you achieve that goal even faster? I think we've shared some things today that hopefully will get you at least thinking about it in a different way, thinking about it a little bit just more simply. It doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be earth shattering. I think a lot of times we get stuck thinking that success and achievement is like this big grand thing. And really, in reality, it's nothing more than every day just showing up and doing what you intend to do in that day and being good with it. I like the idea about the tracking because maybe that's why I'm not necessarily feeling the success when I achieve my goals, is because I'm not celebrating as I go. That's part of it as well. So that, as I mentioned, that's your takeaway for today. Set aside some time, grab your journal. I'm always on you about journaling. Grab your journal or your phone, some kind of a note app. Think about some macro and micro habits that you can set up and start setting up that you're committed to getting through the mundane beginning portions of making that habit stick. And I promise you, if you can do that on a consistent basis, once you get the habit, once you see it work in one area of your life, you're going to be able to pivot and move it over to another area of your life. And then just think about the snowball effect where you're going to be able to achieve health, wealth, legacy, whatever those big goals you've got set for yourself. That's super exciting. And we can't wait to hear about all of your success moving forward. So I think we're going to leave it there. Greg, one more last note or any more last thoughts here before we close this out today?
No, I mean, I think you kind of wrapped it up. So just understanding macro versus micro and how they feed into each other. And I think we gave a lot of great examples here. And yeah, so I think I'm just going to leave it at that, honestly.
Fantastic. So folks, reach out to us, info@richmind.co. Let us know how we can help. We're here trying to help you, trying to achieve. As I mentioned, I think a lot of times we think this achievement is some big thing. In reality, it's just simple things done daily, consistently. Just set the habits up for success and then commit to them. As I mentioned, we're going to discuss that in the next episode, which is going to be a lot of fun as well. So we appreciate your time and attention. If you wouldn't mind sharing the Rich Mind podcast with your family and friends, we'd greatly appreciate that. Help us spread the word. We'd love that. Like I said, reach out to us, info@richmind.co. You can head over to richmind.co and check out all the resources that we have available. We've got blog posts coming out every week. You can download our free resources. Anyways, engage wherever you feel like it would be best help for you, wherever you are in your journey. We definitely want to be there to help support you moving forward. So go out there, have a fantastic day, focus on being great, and we look forward to coming back with the next episode again very soon. Until then, bye now.